Is Dowdy, you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Great to see everybody. Kind of going through some of the guys that are questionable this week. They got banged up at the game. Landon Peterson with a shoulder. If we had to play today, he wouldn't be able to, but I think Drew will be able to get him ready. Dimitri Moore with an ankle went out during the game. Looked good today. Should get him back sometime later in the week. Moreau Mills with his knee, we're hoping to get him back this week. That's going to be later in the week if it's possible with him. Don't want to put him in a position to where he hurts it more than what it is. He's coming back. He was in this morning, looked good, but we'll just have to see. TCU, it's going to be a great game. Excited, undefeated, another top 10 opponent on the road. Sonny Dykes is a good friend of mine. I've known him forever. West Texas' own. Dad was a legend here at Texas Tech, and I know Sonny's proud to be from out here, and his sister still lives out here, brother still lives out here, but big fan of Sonny Dykes. Garrett Riley, another West Texas kid, known Garrett for a good while. Coach Perry has coached with them whenever they were at SMU, so I got to know Coach Riley a lot better, just hanging out with him and Coach Perry. Man, he's done a phenomenal job. The QB is playing at a level that he's never played at before. He's been there for a long time, played him a couple of times, and what Coach Riley's doing with the QBs, pretty special. The running back has played really well. Blanchard was the first guy to really find that guy, and he was leading the state and probably the nation in rushing whenever he was coming out of high school. So really good football player. And then they have one of the best receivers in the country, projected first-round pick out of Temple, Texas, and, man, he's really good. Then you turn on defense, and Coach Gillespie, their DC, is a great friend of mine. He was a head coach at Stephenville, Texas. He and I have a lot of the same mentors. We spend a lot of time together. He does a phenomenal job with his odds stack. They're very aggressive, very physical, and he's complimenting what Coach Riley's doing on offense because they're pretty physical in the run game. It's going to be a great game. It's always fun to play good friends. I probably know this staff as well as anybody as far as like length of time. Of course, I knew the last staff, but not as long as I know, especially the OC, DC, and head coach. So excited. Our guys are going to be excited. I learned today that there's a saddle on the line. I didn't know that, but Zane reminded me that. So fired up about that. See, we can't get that and get Kenny Perry on the saddle if we can bring that back to Lubbock. So with that, open up with any questions.
Hey, Coach, and looking back at the game and being able to talk with your team and your staff and everything, can you put a finger on what happened in terms of the outcome of the game on Saturday?
Man, it's frustrating. If you see me yesterday, you wouldn't see the same guy, but 24 hours is up, and the players remind me that as much as I remind them, and so you got to move on. But, the biggest thing is getting beat up front. I thought we did a really good job, again, with their wide zone. They adjusted, went to their pin and pull. I thought we didn't adjust quick enough in the first half. The second half did a much better job in the run game. But you go back, for it to be 24-17 and then us, if we come down with the ball in the end zone, 31-24, and again, having 5 turnovers. At that point, I guess it was 4 turnovers. Says a lot about our guys, of how hard they're playing. I felt different whenever I came in here on Saturday night and then watching the film, the last couple of drives, they were still playing hard. You're not going to win games turning the ball over. No matter if the defense is playing good or they're not playing good, it's still, you're not going to win games. So the biggest thing is, I told him yesterday when we practiced yesterday and we're going through corrections is, we've got to do a better job of taking the ball away on defense. It's partly our fault. If it's going to be that kind of game, then we got to be more we've got to take the ball away more, and then we've got to protect the ball. We've got to be smart in what we do and part of that is play calling, protecting the quarterback, and then them getting the ball out on time. First interception, we were late. If we throw it whenever he's open, then it's probably a touchdown or a big play, down inside the 5, and we were late with the ball.
How much input do you have in terms of the offense and defensive game plans during the week and then during the game? How much do you talk to your coordinators about what you want to see?
A lot of it during the week is just going in and out of the meetings and making sure I know what we're doing, what we can attack, different things that I've seen on film. I really, truly believe, you want to have a game plan that you have enough in. The longer you sit in the room, the more plays you can come up with. But you have enough in, but you also allow your players to go play and play fast. And so mine is more encouraging whenever we get later into the week that if we're not confident with the play, the players are not going to be confident with the play, then start taking stuff out. And in the game, it's more, coming after where we're going to pressure, whether it's going to be, who's going onto the field, who we can attack. We have a ball thrown in the end zone. The young man, Williams, number 27 for Baylor, did a great job coming down with the ball, but I felt like we could attack him, and so I told Kitley to go after him, and the kid made a great play.
On Saturday, you did mention that you guys won't be naming a starting quarterback until after you watch the game film. Kind of what's an update on that? But also being said, when you're looking at all 3 quarterbacks, what's a strength of theirs that maybe for you guys you could be like, hey, I feel comfortable for any of those 3 to be starting for you guys on Saturday?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think if we started today, and it's probably going to be the same tomorrow, that Barron would take the reps. He would walk on the field first. One of his big strengths is how we can run our tempo. It fits him. He gets the ball out fast, and he's done that, before the game, West Virginia and Oklahoma State. He gave us a really good look at that and what the team can look like. And we have to do that a little bit. One, that's his strength, and 2, any tempo protects the offensive line, and, we didn't obviously do that. I knew how hard Saturday was going to be protecting those guys because, get the best up front 7. I picked them to win the conference, and I still think they're the best team that we've played up until this point. And so we'll see on Saturday because I know TCU is really, really good. With Donovan, he brings more in the quarterback run game. He has a big arm. That's a great throw. We didn't catch it. It's probably the most drops we've had all season long. That's one thing that, I've been really proud of our receivers that helps us. If you look at us, we're a tempo team that runs a lot of plays, but we have a lot of drives that are 10, 12, 15-play drives. The reason we do is because our receivers catch the ball so well. And we had some drops that really affect us, but that was a great ball, that we dropped in the end zone. Should have been a touchdown. And then Shuck kind of brings both together, and he had a little bit more experience going into the season, can get us in and out of plays a little bit quicker than the other 2 just because of his experience. But I think tomorrow, and they already know this, that whenever we go out there, but it's going to be, I don't know how many people have looked at their depth chart, but there's a lot of oars on it, and it wasn't there last week. And the reason is again, I go back, and I've said it all year long, but you can't be the brand and have competitive in your part of your brand and who you are, and not whenever you come out of a game and different people struggle, not have other people competing for that job, And so, really, the right tackle and left tackle, there's oars by both of them. We're going to see who plays the best this week. We'll probably do a little bit more good on good this week to kind of put those guys under pressure, But, at left tackle, you've got Caleb Rogers and Ethan Card. He's an older guy. He's done everything we asked, so we're going to let those 2 guys battle it out. And, depending on Monroe, if Monroe can come back and I feel good about him, then that'll be our starter at right tackle. But if not, Matthew Keeler and Ty Buchanan, it's going to be a true competition. The other thing too, and I'm telling y'all, when I say this, I mean this. I said this to our players. I take as much blame as anybody. Whenever I talk about talking to the players and not calling them out before I call myself out, but we can't give up 6 sacks. And And that has to do with me, has to do with Coach Kitley, has to do with Coach Hamby, and has to do with the offensive line and the QB. And so we all have to look at ourselves. I asked the players, I think I said this Saturday, but I asked them, I said, we got to really look in the mirror, and it starts with me of like, you know, what can I do better? How can I be a better version of myself against TCU? And, you know, that's not a bad thing. I mean, we all should be doing that in our daily lives. So it's something that we're really, you know, challenging our guys to do. And we're going to compete this week. We're going to walk out there on Saturday and put the best Texas Tech team on the field, and we're excited about playing the number 7 team in the nation.
Circling back on left tackle, you kind of mentioned it. Just curious, has Ethan Card played there before this season? Or
Man, Ethan's play. I think that's the one thing about Ethan. You know, honestly, you know, Monroe right now is going to be taking snaps out of a right-handed stance and a left-handed stance. So, you know, if he's fully healthy, I could see him easily being over there. And, you know, Caleb was a right tackle, and we moved him over to left tackle. And, you know, we'll see in a couple weeks if we're fully healthy what that looks like. But Ethan's played guard and tackle, you know, and played both in college football. And so he got all the reps as Caleb's backup last week. Whenever Monroe went down, we moved Ty back over and moved Keeler over to right, and, you know, just trying to get the best 5 out there.
This is a name that we haven't heard from you in a little while. What's the latest on Derek Lewis?
He's healthy. He's just one of the deals of, you know, it's hard to get on the field whenever you got Krishan Merriweather and Kosai and Jacob Rodriguez, who's really starting to flash and come on, and Matthews. I mean, they're playing well and doing some really good stuff, and so it's hard to get on the field with those 4.
Coach, you've really honed in on the turnovers from last week and wanting to correct those this week. Are there tried and true methods that you do at practice when turnovers start to, you know, kind of pile up on top of each other where you can go in and hone in and correct them?
I think the biggest thing, because these are one, whenever the ball was taken from us for the touchdown, I mean, you go through there and talk about ball security, but the biggest thing is, like, why is it happening? And so you got to do a lot of film study, and, you know, the guys have got to be willing to make sure they're taking the time, coming in one-on-one, especially at the quarterback position. And so why did this happen? Why were you late? What did you see on this ball? You know, some of that stuff like that. I mean, and then there's sometimes that you are on time, but they've called a really good defense into it, and they are sitting on a play, and, you know, bad things happen. But a lot of it's just film study, you know, and getting the ball out on time is one of the biggest things. Because, I mean, I have to go back. I can't think off the top of my head, but I have to go back of each one. You know, should the ball have gone there? Was that your second? What happened? Why didn't you go to your first look? There was a couple like that, you know, a couple of guys that are open, and that's your first look. Throw it to them, you know. Same thing with sacks. I mean, you know, whether you throw the ball away or you're trying to do too much. I mean, there's some plays. There was a play going into the south end zone that we've got Bradley on a little. He may pick up 2 yards, but that's first read. 35's in your face. Get it out of your hands. You're not – the play's over. Like, you either got to go there or you got to throw it away. You can't keep trying to make plays. And our 3 quarterbacks, the good thing about them is they can make plays with their feet. Sometimes that gets the better of you too. And that, you know, the 7 and 2, that's just a lot of, you know, getting older and understanding that.
Kind of going back towards TCU with Coach Dykes being in his first year there, why do you think he's been able to hit the ground running like he already has been?
Well, you know, if you look at that team, I was looking at it. I was watching, just got to, you know, watching the West Virginia game. I mean, it's an old team. I'm trying to think. You know, he's got 4 offensive linemen that played last year, and the 5th one was at SMU that started for him at SMU. The running back, I know when we played him at Baylor, he was the starting running back. You know, the receiver, I mean, whether he's young or old, that dude's just a freak. So you got an old offense. You got a quarterback that's played a lot of football that has really bought into that system. And then defensively, if you go back over there, they've got a really young nose guard, but they've got a lot of guys that have played a lot. I mean, you know, usually I'll never forget, and again, I think I told y'all this when I first came out of fall camp or got the job, is like, I'm not waiting to win in 3 years. I mean, I'm expecting to win this weekend. You know, we expected to win last weekend, but I'll never forget Matt Rule, my very first year, said we're going to beat people up year 3 because we're going to be old. You know, college football has changed a little bit different. It's a little bit different because you can become old through the portal and different things like that. I mean, that's really not who we want to be. We want to grow our guys up. But right now, you know, TCU is a really seasoned team. And I definitely think with his temperament and who he is, Coach Dykes is a really good fit for TCU.
Coach, Coach, Miles Price had 1 catch on Saturday. Do you expect him to get more involved this weekend?
Man, I hope so. I mean, he was one that I was shocked had a drop early in the game that would have ended up being at least a first down. That's not the reason he didn't get more. It's, you know, we've discussed a little bit of trying to get him and Xavier on the field at the same time. They both play the same position. If you look at their reps in the game, they were pretty equal. I think it was like 38 and 31, something like that. So it wasn't that he wasn't on the field. But I think he's going to feel a lot better. Saw him. I mean, he was the first one in this morning whenever I came in, and, you know, I said, how you feeling? He felt great. You know, we had a ton of guys in there. They're really recovering and rehabbing and trying to be feeling good tomorrow going into practice. But I think he's going to make an impact, you know, the more that he's practicing at full speed. And then we got to find a way to get those 2 guys on the field because Xavier's playing at a high level.
And circling back defensively, how do you feel like your D-line matches up with their O-line?
You know, it's going to be good, man. I think that's kind of been the strength. I mean, you go back, the old guys. I mean, Tony Bradford, and I call him the mayor. Tony Bradford and Jay Boog, they've played a lot of football. Tyrese played a lot of football. Josiah Pierre's getting better and better in a new position. And the couple of backups are older guys, you know, and so I think you're seeing that. I mean, we got 2 old linebackers, so you're seeing those guys, you know, play well. So I think it's going to be a good matchup. I mean, that's one matchup that's, you know, it's going to be a war in the trenches whenever it comes to their old line and our old defensive line.
Regardless of who does get the start this Saturday, are you still planning on getting all 3 quarterbacks some snaps?
Yeah, I think that's going to be interesting because I think now that Tyler, he took a pretty good hit. And it was funny. I asked him yesterday if he was okay, and he was like, yeah, it was a little shocking, Coach. I wasn't expecting when I slid to get hit like I did, but he said it was probably pretty good. So, you know, I do think that this is a good week to pull out our 3 quarterback package and you know, see what that looks like. You know, regardless, we still feel good about some of the stuff that we can do with Donovan and short yardage. And so, you know, I see that as a plus for us. I think it stresses defenses, and you know, I think it's good competition. You know, we'll see who, again, whoever walks out there first. I feel like it really kind of is like, here's our starting quarterback, and here's who we're going to roll with. Give us the best chance to win.
You just mentioned the defensive line. Tyree leads the all-Power 5 in pressures on quarterback. Can you just speak to his motor and what makes him such a great defensive player?
You said it perfect. He's got a motor, man. I mean, I've coached, you know, in 2019, the 3D linemen that I was able to coach all were in the NFL the next year. Now, one of them works for us. Coach Lockhart had a cup of coffee with Pittsburgh and then, you know, ended up getting cut. But the other 2 are still in the NFL. And, man, they're guys. And James Lynch led the Big 12 in sacks. He had 13.5 sacks his junior year before he came out. So I've coached some really good defensive linemen. And, man, I don't know if I've coached anybody like this guy. I mean, if you look at him, how many times he throws his body, You know, you don't get a lot of 6'6" guys that run plays down from the backside and throw their body. You get a lot of guys that reach and make plays because they're so long. You know, he's making plays because he throws his body. He's got a great motor. You know, we have to play better around him. Early in the game, we allowed the quarterback to scramble. He pressured us right into where we should have been. And, you know, it's a layup, and, you know, for whatever reason, we're not there. And so we got to play better around him, because what people are going to do when you watch the game, he's getting the offensive tackle, he's getting a tight end, and sometimes he's getting the running back, all three of them on him. So somebody's got to win their one-on-one. But then also whenever, you know, we create some pressure through some of our games, then we got to make sure we're where we're supposed to be. I mean, we have started off the game with a sack, and we peeked back inside, and, you know, Shapen was athletic enough to get back outside.
Joey, I was going to ask you a question that somebody tweeted at me. You alluded a moment ago to Tyler taking the hit that he took last night. Somebody wanted me to ask how you assess your personnel management with the quarterbacks down the stretch on Saturday night, I guess, in terms of when did you decide was the time for Donovan, and how'd you go about deciding this is the time to go put Tyler out there?
Yeah, whenever it didn't get, if we come down with the ball, crazy play, wasn't a simultaneous catch. If it was, it would have been a touchdown for the offense. But when we didn't get it to 31-24, and it was 31-17, fourth quarter, it was a point to where we wanted to see where he was at, you know, and it was, we just kind of felt like it was time to put him out there. You know, unfortunate that we come out and, you know, we throw a field out, and a dude sitting on it and pick six, and all of a sudden the game, you know, the last two touchdowns, the game looks totally different. A loss looks like a loss at the end of the year, no matter what the score is. So, I mean, I don't know if it'd feel any different getting beat 31-17, or I don't know if it was 45-17, whatever it was. But just putting him in there, you know, seeing where we're at. I mean, the thing is like Barron has done a very good job, but Tyler Shuck won the job. And I didn't put him back in, and kind of talked about it last week. It's hard you never want to lose your job over injury. And so I thought at that point it was a good time where we were in the game to see, you know, where he was at in live situations, you know, and so put him in like that. I mean, I'm all for what we were doing with Donovan whenever we came in, got the first down and go tempo. You know, just got to make better decisions on where we're throwing the ball in those situations after that. Because the good thing about whenever we can do that with Donovan is most people would be subbing, and they could sub. We were able to keep their guys on the field. You know, the first time got a first down and kind of got going. The second time we threw an interception.
Also, the Quentin Johnston this week getting a lot of attention, looking like a first-round draft choice. Yeah. How much did y'all see of him when he was right in your backyard when you were down at Baylor?
I saw him a lot. You know, we felt like we had a good chance. You know, number 9 for Baylor is a Temple kid, really popular, T.J. Franklin, and so we thought we had a really good chance. I think TCU did a good job, but it was also in a change between coaching staffs. So there were some guys that we were probably recruiting at the time that we didn't get, that went other places just because there was that change between Coach Rule and Coach Aranda. Really good player, man. I mean, he's a big receiver. It's going to be, you know, I'm excited, man, because the one thing we got 2 long corners, you know, that play pretty dang good this year, and so that's going to be a really good matchup between those guys. And they have another one, number 18. So you kind of got, honestly, I don't know if you're going to see 2 big receivers go at 2 big corners. I don't know if you'll see that very much in the Big 12 or around the nation.
Started to answer my next question. I was going to ask you what kind of look Malik and Rashad will have in their eye this week, you think?
I think it's going to be good. You know, I think it's a challenge. I mean, you know, I know he 100% believes that he's a first-round draft pick. Malik and Shad believe that they can play in the NFL. And so whenever you have those things going on, it's kind of the game within the game. They believe in themselves. I think they've played really well this year. I'm excited about both of them. And so it's going to be a lot of fun to watch on Saturday.
Kendra Miller had a really big game out here last year.
Yeah.
What's
He's
your
a dude,
impression
man.
of him?
I mean, he's really, honestly, if you go back, we did not offer him at Baylor. Whenever I was there, we had a really probably over scholarshiped running back room. But I'll never forget. I mean, I actually went to East Texas. He was at the East Texas camp, and I watched him for the second time because he came to the Baylor camp. And James Blanchard was just begging Coach Rule to offer him, and I could understand why we didn't because of how many scholarship running backs we had, and there was really no room. And Blanchard was like, well, let him be a linebacker. He's not going to be a linebacker, but just like take one of those spots. He's that good, and he was committed to UTSA, and TCU came in right there at the end and was able to flip him and get him to go to TCU. He is a really, really good football player. And I could be totally wrong, but I think his senior year, he might have led not just the state of Texas, but the nation in rushing.
All right.
It's
Coordinator here in just a few minutes.
It's great to see y'all.
Coach, what stood out to you about the TCU skill position players when all collectively they've probably played is about as good as they have in their entire careers up to this point?
The biggest thing is speed. I mean, it's a really, really fast football team. They're playing with a lot of confidence. I think that starts with the quarterback. I think he's playing with a lot of confidence. He's a veteran guy, seen a lot of, different defensive schemes, and he knows where to go with the ball. They obviously do a really nice job coaching those guys up where they play fast. It's been impressive to see a new staff come in, and they take to it really, really well. And I think it helped that they were, a spread team before. And I didn't really study TCU in the past, but they're just doing a lot of really good things, and they're balanced. They're mixing the run and pass, and they're doing it with some tempo. So really can stress a defense.
Coach, how familiar are you with Max Duggan and kind of how he's progressed throughout the season?
Well, we've gone through their games. He's been impressive to me, and I know he didn't start the season. They had the other quarterback start, but he looks like he's been a multiple-year starter. He's a guy that is playing right now with a ton of confidence, really athletic, makes the throws, and they can design some quarterback run game for him because he runs not only fast, but he's strong. He's not a guy that's going to run and then slide. He's going to run and run through tackles. So he's definitely a concern and someone that we've been really impressed with.
About Quentin Johnson throughout the week, but are there any other receivers TCU has that you're kind of keeping an eye on?
Yeah, like 4 of them. 11 is really, really fast. 4, they're getting him on fly sweep stuff as well in the slot. And then 18 outside is a big, long receiver that I know a lot of people in our league would love to have him playing for them too. So they present a lot of challenges from an athletic skill standpoint, and I think their coaching staff does a great job in spreading you out, getting you in one-on-ones, and letting their skill and their speed take over.
About Quentin Johnson. I mean, Coach McGuire just called him one of the freakiest wide receivers in the conference. I'm pretty sure he's scored in all of their last 4 games. Why is he such a weapon? What does he do differently than everybody
Have you
else?
seen him?
Yeah.
I mean, the guy looks like Megatron. He's a big, fast guy. He's long, physical, and he can run away from people. If you're into that kind of thing, I guess they were, and he's making it really hard on opposing defenses because if you single him up, he uses his body. But the problem is they got 3 other receivers that you need to double, and you start doing the math and you run out of guys. So we got to do a great job of disguising coverage, mixing pressures, and hopefully not getting too many situations where he's soloed up.
TCU are the best offenses in the Big 12 statistically speaking. Is there anything that you see from TCU that maybe you see when you're watching the games here that you guys are doing at least somewhat similar?
You're talking about our offense and their offense? Yeah, I mean, you go back to the roots. A lot of it's air raid based. The thing that I've been really impressed with them, I mean, they're averaging 200 yards a game or more running the ball. Once again, we got another running back in the Big 12 that's, one of the best in the country. And I think 33 does a really nice job. If you're light in the box, which at times you need to be in order to defend the pass with all their speed and the space that they put you out in and spread you out, 33 runs through tackles and then takes the top off of a lot of people and has explosive runs. So it's a concern that, yeah, they do the spread stuff that we do. There's a lot of similarities. And they've got skill that really can amplify that stress because of the speed taking it out. Just they get a little seam and they're gone.
Yeah, Coach, last week you faced a really, really experienced O-line. Seems like you got another one rolling in this week. What did your defensive line learn, and what do you think that you can build on for this week?
You talking about comparing last week to this week?
Yeah, with the offensive line.
I knew going in that was a really good offensive line. They're very well coached, particularly in their scheme. I thought we probably defended the outside zone as well as anybody, but we did not do a very good job, and I didn't do a very good job of getting our guys to play the pin pull that they went to later on. We're not going to see probably that type of a scheme. Certainly not from these guys. They'll run some outside zone, but that was the bread and butter for Baylor last week. But it's it comes down to fundamental football, and our guys hopefully will learn when we've got to make in-game adjustments, what we've got to do to communicate that and get it taught during the game. Maybe seeing some things that we hadn't seen exactly in practice, and that's what people do. I mean, they change, so we can't show them the world. We got to adjust as we go.
Along the lines of fundamental football, you guys are going on a very seasoned offense. How much more difficult is it to add that onto the back of all of these freaks that they have on offense?
I mean, it's tough, but it's the Big 12. As a defensive coordinator or a defensive player, you don't come here for it to be soft. I mean, it's going to challenge you, and I think our guys relish that opportunity. You get into November, and Coach talked about this with our staff and our players. Certain teams are battling, to hopefully win a championship, and we think TCU is one of those teams. We would like to think we're in it, but the reality is, that's probably, a down the line concern. It's about going 1-0 this week, and some teams can't handle that. Our charge, and I think Coach does a great job of having our guys focused on improving ourselves every single day, getting 1% better, so that by the time we get to Saturday, we can play our absolute fastest and most violent. If our guys take that to heed, it doesn't matter what they do, we'll have a chance. If we don't practice well and practice hard, the TCU will have a TCU day and put a lot of points up on people.
Any more questions for Coach?
Nothing today.
Coach McGuire mentioned that y'all won't be naming a starter until after you guys have looked through the game film and stuff. But same thing I asked him, as you being the quarterbacks coach, out of all three, what's the strength that they all have, or maybe specifically, that makes that, I guess, that decision harder to make each week?
Yeah, I think, we've kind of talked about it for a long time. They all bring something different to the table. I think we try to go fast. Barron brings a little something different to the table, being able to whip the ball out quickly and get it to the guys in space. Tyler brings the more experience and knowledge to the game and being able to see certain things in the defense. And then, Donovan just being such a great athlete and being able to use his legs too helps him. So, all three of those guys, you saw them all Saturday, and we're going to see how the week goes and kind of go from there moving forward.
And then being on the offensive line, Coach mentioned that it's going to be a bit of a competition, I guess. Kind of what does that look like to you guys, and also with the chemistry with maybe whatever quarterback is going to be starting under center on Saturday?
Yeah, it'll be kind of a big rotation kind of moving through the week for those, especially the tackle positions. Hopefully we'll get Monroe back this week, and that'd be huge for us. But we're going to have some competition go out there, we'll kind of see how that goes as well. I've got to do, again, it's bottom line, it comes down to me, and I got to set those guys up for a little more success with play calls and pocket movement and screens and draws and all those things. So, but yeah, it's just going to be a good week and a good week of competition, and that's kind of where we're at right now. So we're going to move forward with that and see who kind of comes out on top here, after Fast Friday practice in the morning.
Coach, I don't know if you look at the early forecast, but it looks like there might be some rain in Fort Worth on Saturday. How does that kind of impact your game plan? Not really sure if that's really going to happen or not.
Yeah, I think you look into it a little bit, but, I think for the most part, you just kind of go in with your game plan. You got to find how do you attack them, and you try to attack those scenarios. They may change their game plan and say, hey, they're not going to throw the ball because we're going to add guys to the box and all that. And so if they're going to add guys to the box, it may be tough sledding trying to run the football. So you're going to have to try to scheme up some ways to get some guys freed up and throw the ball. I've played in quite a few rain games, and it's really never been an issue. I haven't played in a game where it's probably like a downpour. So if it's a downpour, I think that clearly would probably change your play calls to a certain extent. But if it's just a light rain or whatever, I think you just kind of go out there and go. It'll be interesting. I know they're a grass field there, so that could get iffy too with trying to cut around and some of those things for receivers running routes and some of that too. So I think that's kind of something that you look in through the week, and we're going to take a good look at that again tomorrow and see kind of if that's changed any of the weather and kind of go from there. And we may do a little wet ball drill or something like that and use that in practice this week. But we'll just kind of have to see how that goes.
Coach mentioned 6 sacks. It's just something that's unacceptable. You mentioned it a moment ago, but what are some of the things that you and Coach Hamby and Coach McGuire discuss whenever you kind of
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of things, you know, a lot of, again, starts with me trying to find ways to help us be a lot more successful. That's number one. Number two, again, I put it back on me. I got to get the quarterback to step up in the pocket sometimes and not retreat in the pocket, and get the ball out quicker as well on certain plays where, you know, maybe read one wasn't there, but read two was, and we didn't throw it to read two, and so we got sacked, some of those things. And then, you know, there are the times where we did just get beat as well. And, you know, again, we knew we were going to go play a very talented defensive line last week, but, you know, we had, if you take out the sacks out, we had 200 yards rushing if you take those sacks out. And so we were running the ball really well, and we've got to, again, goes back to me. I should have ran the ball more and taken a little bit of pressure off those guys. So those are some things that we're going to do, try to do that moving forward and create some competition this week in practice as well, like we talked about.
Coach, you mentioned helping the offensive line by running more screens and draws, rollouts, run the ball some more. What did Baylor do that dictated you to not do that, not call as many of those plays last week?
Yeah, we had some schemed up, and we just didn't feel great about them, to be 100% honest with you, after we kind of got into the game a little bit. You know, Landon going down early. Screens are tough. You know, if you're going to the way I look at screens, if you're going to run screens, you got to get a lot of repetition at those throughout the week. And, you know, a lot of your screen game has your guards and centers getting out on those screens, and especially when it came to the right side of the offensive line. You know, when Landon went down, Jacoby just hadn't had as many reps at getting those screens, because the biggest part of those screens is hitting your targets when you get out there in space. And so that's something that we just didn't get to as much. Again, probably should have done it, but we just didn't feel as comfortable with it, you know, kind of when that happened at that point in the game.
And then Coach LeVar mentioned Ethan Carr being at left tackle. I know somebody brought that up as well, but what have you seen from him since you've been here? Because he's a guy who has a lot of experience from before.
Yeah, you know, he's been a guy that's done a lot for us, you know, as far as what positions he's played. I mean, he's played probably all, you know, not center, but the other four positions at some point here since we've been here. So he's a guy that clearly has a lot of experience. That's played a lot of football. So we're excited to kind of see, you know, giving him this opportunity this week to compete for that starting job and see if he'll take it and run with it.
McGuire kind of mentioned it on Saturday about Barron and frankly one of his roughest outings in his young career, but with him potentially leading this charge for the remainder of the season, coming back after a bad game and then heading into a hostile environment on the road, I guess what do you kind of expect out of him and his work ethic this week to be able to put the past behind him? Yeah, I mean,
I think if you look at every quarterback in history, these games happen, especially, you know, young quarterbacks and some of their first starts. You know, I've been a part of Lubbock and Texas Tech football for a long time, and I can remember a young Graham Harrell in one of his first games in 2006 against Missouri throw 2 pick sixes in that game, and the crowd was booing him, and it was a bad deal. And then clearly you see how he progressed throughout his career. So they happen to everybody. But Barron's, you know, he's positive, and I know, you know, we had 24 hours to let that one go, and it's over, and so we're moving forward to TCU. So he's going to be just fine. I have no doubt there. We just got to, again, I got to help him out. I got to get him into good play calls. I got to coach him better during the week. And I got to help get him more comfortable back there where he feels really, really good about what we're doing, play every single play throughout the day. So he's going to be just fine moving forward.
Any last questions?